Hey.
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 Were you able to do it?
Yeah, so I'll share my screen. Hey, Moana. Oh, so you guys are together. So nice.
Yeah.
Can you enable screen sharing?
See if you can do it now.
Yeah. So yeah, so I'm here. It's just like waiting.
All right, can you go up that first link? Yeah, can you send that in the chat for me?
Yes. Oh my god, sometimes I feel like a grandma with Zoom. I'm just like
no, Zoom is weird sometimes.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Chat. Yes. And then the stream key is always default, right?
Yeah, and then go down.
Mm-hmm.
Open in your tab. And then copy the URL from over there and send that in the chat for me too.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I think I did more of the Zoom tech role. No, I did the Zoom platform role with Luana, but she did most of it the last time. And then we just wait.
Yeah, then we'll just wait for people. And the questions are gonna show up there, right there. And then you just copy the name and the question off the chat.
Okay. Amazing.
Oh, I have to record this. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Dang. I hope I have. Okay, let me delete some stuff here. Hopefully. You're right. You're right. I forgot about that. Okay. Good. I forgot I had to record this one.
Oh.
Because, gotta make sure I have space.
Oh yeah. So once everybody's ready to go and the clock hits 10 minutes before, that's when I should go live? Like 10 minutes before?
10 minutes is too early, I found. Usually like 7:50, not 7, 6:57, 58. Oop, I'm hurting my hacking shoe. Like 6:57.
Okay.
And then yeah, and then you go live to audience. I was gonna do 10 minutes before because I thought that would take longer, but they recently did an update, which messed me up yesterday, but um they did an update. Is it already recording? I didn't even hit record. That's weird. Anyways, hopefully I'm gonna stop recording. Well, I don't want to stop recording and then not be able to record again. But
Oh, yeah.
also, but also I don't want to like I wanted to start recording as soon as it started to make sure I had space for it. Let's see if I stop recording. Stop cloud recording after stopping and receive an email. No, I'll just keep it going. Let's hope I have space.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's really a pleasure to have both of you here with us tonight for our discussion. For our audience, I'm very happy that you are here too. I'm Mariana Friedel, the founder and director of MOSTRA, and we will start with a little introduction of our speakers tonight. Mariana Meliande is a director of the film that you, I hope, have seen, Mormaço, or Sultry, which premiered at the International Film Festival in Rotterdam, competition in 2018. She has previously directed films such as A Fuga da Mulher Gorila or The Escape of the Monkey Woman, which premiered at Locarno International Film Festival. A Alegria is another one, The Joy, which premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, and Desassossego or Unrest, that made its premiere at the International Film Festival in Rotterdam also. Meliande worked as an editor for over 40 Brazilian films, including Girimundo or Swirl, Histórias que só existem quando lembradas, the translation is Found Memories, and Olmo and the Gaivota or Olmo and the Seagull, Pendula, and Chão, or I think it's Landless, the translation, right, of that. She has a wonderful background, and this film that she directed is a very challenging film. You will discuss it tonight. You are going to see it. I hope you have seen it. And if you haven't seen it, you will want to see it after our discussion. I also would like to introduce my dear friend, Franthiesco Ballerini. Franthiesco is our moderator tonight. And Franthiesco is a Brazilian writer, journalist, and filmmaker. He was a finalist for the 6th Jabuti Award, which is the most important literary recognition in Latin America, for his 4th book, which is called Poder Suave, or Soft Power, the first publication in the world exclusively dedicated to investigate the most important cultural soft powers. Among some of his books are Cinema Brasileiro no século XXI, Brazilian Cinema in the 21st Century, Jornalismo Cultural no século XXI, or Arts Journalism in the 21st Century. And he just, I think I just heard you just launched your 5th book, right?
Yes.
História do Cinema Mundial, History of World Cinema. Franthiesco worked also as a film critic and arts analyst for 8 years for the Estado de São Paulo, the 2nd largest newspaper in Brazil. We were very privileged to have Franthiesco with us in 2013, I think it was, right?
Yes,
that you came
exactly.
In Chicago to moderate the films of our 4th MOSTRA. We are now on the 11th MOSTRA. And we have kept contact every time I go to São Paulo, we get together, and it's always a pleasure to have you with us. He's a fantastic film critic, and we really are happy that you could be with us tonight to moderate this session.
Me too. Thank you a lot for the invitation.
Thank you. It's all yours now.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm so happy to be here with Ariane, to see her again and with everyone. But first, I would like to congratulate Marina for her film, and especially for her career. Her biography is amazing, and her film caught my attention because it talks about something very urgent in Brazil, which is the swift and very abrupt changes that happen in big cities like Rio, São Paulo, and Recife. Sometimes, most of the times, privileging the rich and the politics and the poor population. So I would like to ask you, what was your biggest difficulty in making this project real, from the script writing to to approve that with like financing and all the process that we know that is very difficult in Brazil, especially nowadays?
First of all, I would like to thank you all for the invitation. Very happy to be here, to have this opportunity to share with you about the process of the film. Of course, we had a lot of difficulties, but I can say that the process of developing the film and writing the script was very it was not that long, if I can compare with other processes. And I've been in some labs, international labs, and Cine Foundation residence that when I was writing the script, and it helped a lot. I got some international funds quite fast and during the process, and we got this fund that doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, in Brazil. That was Prodecine 5 from Ancine Fundo Setorial, which was dedicated to art house movies and new directors, and unfortunately we don't have anymore this fund. And it was the first year of this fund, and we got from Mormaço. It took some time to get this fund. Once we got it, it took an year or a year and a half to get, and it was my main. I was worried about this time because we needed to shoot before the Olympic Games. So at the beginning, I was planning to release the film during the Olympic Games, and because of these kind of it was kind of late funding, we shot the film like in March, like 3-4 months before the Olympic Games, and at the end it was amazing because we were exactly at the moment that the tension and all these subject that I was very interested about to deal in the film. It was very the most important issues for me. It was the tension between these real people that were living this crisis about how do you say even in Portuguese, I don't know what exactly the same. Crise imobiliária, I mean, a real estate crisis, speculation, because of these, they were threatened to lose their houses. And it was exactly at this moment that we shot that I met people from Vila Autódromo, and I was very impressed about their fight to resist, and their aim for resistance and to keep living in their lands. They were very attached and very organized, political organized, and they were kind of huge example of how we can make daily politics, I mean, for our city and to live in community. So they were a huge example for me, and it was a kind of tragic scenario also, because this neighborhood was very destroyed already also, and they were at the beginning, I think, 100 families, and at the end they were like 20 that remained, resisting and fighting to get this land. So you asked me the difficulties, but at the beginning, the main difficulty, it seemed for me to find the right moment to shoot. And then I found the moment that was really special, because we got this tension and we had a lot of different elements in hands to work in this film. And once I found Vila Autódromo and I was in love with these people and with this community and with this space and neighborhood, the main challenge, I can say more than difficulty, challenge was working with them while they were living this huge challenge for themselves. And so and they received me, they welcomed me like I don't know, I have no words to say to thank them how they received me, because they were very open for this process, and they were very interested in being part of a fiction film. They were very used to be in documentary films about themselves, about their example of fight, of resistance, of story of life. And we managed to make a very beautiful process, managing to mix fiction and documentary, and to get this huge force of working with these elements that was really real and important and urgent, as you say, to be able to get this in the film as something that wasn't exactly a fiction. It is a fiction, it's a fantasy movie, but it has some real how to say, real feeling of something that's happening around us, and it's talking about a time and a present, and that's something that people are really getting through.
Marina, this is not your first film, and it's an original script, right? The script is yours. Filmmakers usually have lots during their career, lots of ideas to shoot, but ideas are just ideas. To make it happen, it's a painful and long process. When did you have this idea to do this film, and how long did it take for you to really decide to make this idea a script and then shoot? What made you decide that?
I was very worried and not feeling well about the process of I'm from Rio, and I've lived in Rio from almost all my life. I'm very attached to the city, and I have a kind of passion-hate relation with the city, and I was very worried about this process that we were all living, and as a spectator, I can say, more than active community, because it was very violent process of changing, of urban changing, this process with Olympic Games and also with World Cup. Rio changed a lot in urban, urban changes, I can say, and economic also. Suddenly the city has become to live huge transformations, and without any kind of social, how do you say, não tinha nenhum tipo de convocação popular, de discussão, debate. We had we had no popular debate about what we were gonna leave or pass in the next years to be able to have these huge events, no? So and at the same time, it was a kind of euphoria because now in the terms of political discussion, everyone was like, no one would like to criticize and to problematize this kind of process because everyone was looking as something good and positive for the city, that everyone would have some kind of benefit because of this. It would attract a lot of investments for the city and people. So we had this kind of euphoria about this process, and public politics about it was very hard for people from lower classes, especially. And it started a kind of very violent process of removal, we can say, removal of neighborhoods. Huge neighborhoods were removal in a very violent way. And I started to watch this kind of process with some feeling of impotencia. How to say this?
Impotence, right?
Impotence.
Ariane, your audio is muted.
Impotence, I can say. There were not space to, like to discuss this public in a kind of public way. Even the medias were very positive about this process, and then we started to see that this violent process, and I was very incomodada, how to say this, about it. I was very touched and bothered about it, and I started to write and to think about this, that was some issue that I would like to work in a film, because I'm very interested in working and thinking how the cities and urban changes can change someone and can affect daily life and people who live there. So the cities are made of people also, of course, and this idea of community. So I started to think how an urban change could affect the body. And at the same time, I was always very attracted about these kind of elements that are very present in Rio, besides of the summer, and that it was very hot. There's this idea of humidity, and and this feeling that there's a lot of how do you say, micro universe in Rio, like in fungus. And everyone who lived in Rio for some years are used to see your clothes during the winter getting mold, and we are very used to see things getting estragando, how to say this, getting
spoiled,
spoiled like fruits very easily. It's kind of part of this feeling of the city that suffocates us also because of because of the heat, and because of not only the summer but especially because of the humidity. Mm-hmm. So it was something that I would like to work also, and I started to think about this kind of disease that at the end, for me, it's not exactly a disease, but a kind of process of resistance, of body transformation that could be related to this idea of transformation, that how a city and a space in transformation could affect someone or a body, and could take this body somewhere else. I don't know if it's a somewhere or some who's, or there's no explanation exactly what happened with this body at the end. I have my explanation, but I like to think this idea of getting two bodies, two different bodies, a city and a body that somehow they mix and get and transforms in something unique. I don't know, something. So it started like with this idea to think how the space and the idea of community, of idea of see a city, a huge city, could affect a body in transformation. How these two things could transform themselves at the same time, and having this relation. Not how they say. Sorry, my English is terrible today.
Very good, actually. Very good.
I'm thinking in other language. Sorry, and could affect, and also now we are in a pandemic times. It's terrible to use this word, but I was also always thinking about this idea of contamination, but a contamination in a positive way, that could how someone could contaminate other with their enthusiasm also, or this idea of resistance. So this idea of keeping their sacred things for them, like their lands, their houses, their family, their idea of community. So Mormaço started with these ideas, and it was, I think, in 2011 that I started to work, or 12, to work in these ideas. And in 2016, it was when we shot and release in 2018. So it took some time, but of course it's not that quickly process that we write in the ideas started to getting, some time. They took some time to get this process, and then I started writing in 2012 2013. So 1 year after I had this fund, I think I was selected, and then 2 years after we had the fund to shoot. So if I compare with other process in Brazil, it's not that long, but it's quite long.
It's a marriage. Longer than a marriage sometimes in Brazil, right?
Yes.
Ariane, would you like to ask something? I have another question, but if you want to make any questions now.
I was amazed by this movie, and it was the progression of the movie that made me extremely anxious. I was going to save my questions for the end, because that relates to the end of the movie, and I don't even know if you want to comment, but so many people asked me about why did you end it like that, and I think you should wait a little bit to discuss the end at the end. So, but really, what is happening there is not something totally unrelated to what happened here. The developers, it's not to make a stadium. We have one process right now outside of my building. My building faces the lake. We have a wonderful view of the lake, and it was promised to us. There was completely unblocked view. And right now we have developers, and they get their way. I don't know how, but they get their way, that want to build. It is a wall of buildings right here in front of us. If they are successful in doing that, we are going, all the buildings around here, which have the view to the lake, we are all going to lose our views. And how do they achieve that? How are they able to do things like that? And dislocate people, they don't think about that. And on areas where there are some low-income housing, how some developers come and throw everybody out and just build a new thing. And it amazes me how these things can happen. And always I think, like you said, what can we do, how can we be more proactive on things like that? I think this is really, your film was incredible about that, in that sense, I think, to show some of, you know, actions, even though I don't know how successful we are, they go ahead and do it anyway, you know.
You know, it's part of the process of Olympic Games, special to remove people from the areas. All the Olympic Games in the last 20 years or more remove people to make part of this show, because they need a huge structure, and cities, especially cities from I don't know, in Brazil, that we hadn't that huge structure to receive these events. We had to prepare a lot, and we know they had to remove people to get huge areas to build this kind of structure, and justifying this because of the kind of idea of progress, that something that could be a kind of heritage for the city, something that people could use after, and to get something, this structure would stay for the city for a long time. And it wasn't what happened, actually. It's very clear for us now that it was a kind of pact between these constructors, right? How do you say, the builders?
Construction or building, yeah.
These constructors, and to make kind of builders that they change land with investment in this structure. So the mayor of Rio was negotiating lands, giving lands in exchange to have investments in this huge infrastructure of stadiums. And so at the end, we hadn't the funding, all the funding to build the structure we need. And they had to make this kind of pact. They had, I don't know if they had actually, if they were obliged, not, they were not obliged, but it was part of the plan. It was part of the economic, to be something that it was economical, it was to be possible economically. They made this kind of pact. And it happens in all Olympic Games, all preparations of the cities, I think, since Barcelona. And when this idea of sediar, how do you say this? These events, of having these events, it could be hosting these events, could be something very special for a city, to put the city in another touristic way to attract more people after, and to build a kind of international image for the city, international kind of selling the city for more people and to attract more people from tourism. So it was part of this. So and the story of Rio de Janeiro, of the city, we live in the last century, a lot of different process of speculation and also of removing. It's part of the idea of the cities. When we got these areas that are not that close to the center of the city, that are more far from the center, for example, as Barra da Tijuca or Jacarepaguá, this area where Vila Autónoma is based. When this area that started as a kind of village, a small city inside of the city, when the infrastructure arrives there with all the the speculation becomes also for these areas when the city is expanding, expandindo, no expanding. This area and this land costs a lot more when this infrastructure of the city, of urban infrastructure, arrives for these people. And it's exactly at this time that the removals happened, when people are, after decades, building their own infrastructure because the city doesn't have this energy to build for all people, to have this idea of community. When the infrastructure, I don't know if I'm explaining myself. I'm kind of I think my English is very confused now. I don't know if you can help me.
Pretty clear.
It is very good. We can understand.
So when this land became to be more speculative, or this value of the land, it's higher because of speculation, the removals happen. So it's part of the story of Rio de Janeiro, and the process of building the city and expanding the city to have removals. So it was kind of natural for us, not for me, but for the city and for idea that people live there. People are quite used to be removed from their houses. But this way was very, very violent process. And not that justified, because it was justified because of this event, but it was an event that was like, what, 1 month during, I don't know, they were not, it was not a process that was long-term process. So it was very hard for people to be obliged to get another place to live, and to not negotiate with the mayor and with the a better place to go. They are all living in a worse way now. I mean, people who were able to negotiate, because not everyone was negotiating. A lot of people just lose their houses, and I don't know what they had no house now, where to live. A lot of people are living in the streets, or living a very, very far, I mean, living much, much far from their were living and far from their work, and having to pass, I don't know, 2-3 hours to go to work. I mean, very far from they were living. So a lot of people are living now in a worse way, in a very hard way, as they were living in comparison as were they living before. So it's not a city that treats everyone in the same way. It's, of course, it's a very elitistic way to see this kind of city, to work in Rio de Janeiro. Someone.
There's a question from Sarah. Yeah. I'll read the question. Okay.
Sure.
I lived in Rio my entire life, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how the general view and portrayal in the media of these communities contributes to these developments and gentrification of those areas.
You mean, Sarah, you mean of these communities that were removed? Because we had some media about the process of removals. We had a lot, I mean, special alternative medias that were interested in this issue and to talk about it. But the big media was very, I mean, attract with the idea of hosting these events, and wasn't not problematizing or criticizing this process. They were together with this idea of making this image of international city that could host this event for Rio. And I feel like poorer communities in general are portrayed badly in the media, and so people tend to think these developments are a good thing, maybe. Yes, so contractors can get away with that kind of stuff. Yes, yes, they were seen as people that had not the right to be there, that was invaders, for example. They were treated as invaders, and most part of them were the right to live where they were living. So that's why they could also negotiate, and they were not able to be just expelled, like they had to negotiate because they had the right to be there. In different process of Rio, I mean, in case of Vila Autódromo, I think in the 70s or 80s, they had this process of recognition from the governor of Rio. It was Brizola, Brizola, I think, in the moment, in the 90s, I think so, that recognized the right of their right to be there, to live. They couldn't sell this land. It wasn't that they could, I mean, they were not owners, but they had the right to live for 100 years, their families, and could build houses and could expand their houses there, to build another, not rooms, and they could live there and not be, and could rent, I think, their houses also, but it wasn't that they were not owners. It was an area of interest, interesse, a community interest, I mean, for public housing, I could say. So yes, most part of the big media were treating these people as invaders, and people who supposedly were not respecting the environment, and they were kind of polluting the rivers. And it's not true. Actually, they were very, because of they have this idea of community, they were treating these areas their homes. So they were making a lot of improvements in these areas so they could live better. Yeah, so there's a kind of different ways of looking for these communities.
There was a question
from these different medias.
From Eric Brenner that said, do you know of any resistance movements against the development that were successful?
This, in the case of Vila Autódromo, is the first movement that in Rio, at least, and in the story of Olympic Games, that could resist. At the end, they could stay. So they have this kind of also example of important example of resistance. Although there are few families now, unfortunately, there are 20 families that resist, because it was very hard process. They lived a lot of difficult things. They were like in a kind of apocalyptic scenario, with no water, with structure of city. I mean, they were destructing everything around, so they couldn't, they would give up to be there. They were trying. This was the kind of politics of this prefeitura, Mary, of Rio, to convince them to get out. So it was not an easy process, but they could resist with a lot of supporters. Also, they were able to create a kind of community that wasn't only the community that lived there, but people that were supporters of this cause and was, you know, like friends of this idea to help them to resist, to help them to stay there. And it was a lot of they were known a lot from a lot of people because they were kind of making like every week they were they had a lot of events, you know, they musical concerts, movies, and theaters, having people to make lectures, and they were kind of resisting also and building this idea of culture, and having this kind of a new community in between them. No, it was very beautiful process. They had a lot of energy, and it was a really beautiful example of resistance.
Mariana, I'd like to ask you a more technical question that made me curious. You said that your film has a mix between documentary and fiction. How hard it is to do a script when it's fiction, but you let the film being contaminated by reality, such as in a documentary? How hard it is to actually shoot a script like that?
Actually, the script was mainly fiction, and when I started to shoot, when I started to research, and when I found Vila Autódromo, I was in love with this community and with their energy and with this example of people. They were amazing. There were amazing characters also there that were a huge example for me, and I started to shoot in a kind of informal way before shooting for real with with my team,
crew,
a huge crew. I was like once in a week. I was going there in Vila Autódromo with my DOP, for example, and when it was happening something in some day. I mean, it was a kind of I don't know, event there. We were like going sometimes to shoot and to get more closer to people también also, and to know them better, shooting with them, and to get this closer relation. And I realized that there were a lot of interesting things that it wasn't my script, and I would like to shoot also. So, and close to the shootings, they were living this kind of threat, and that it was one of the main leaders of this resistance had this threatened to lose her house, and they were fighting in injustice about this right to stay and we were kind of in a tension that we were waiting for them to lose this house anytime. So we were very worried to be very close to them, because we know once we were there with a camera, we could also film and protect in some way this process to not to be that violent, because once we have a camera in front of the police, we can sometimes avoid more violent actions. We were very close to them, like in a kind of expectation to know if it would happen or not. Of course, hoping that would not happen. But it happened in the second day of our shooting, and in the first day of shooting, we were there shooting with them in this house as a decor, as a scenario of the film. And it was a kind of surprise. In the second day of shooting, we started our day with helping them to pack their things in this house, because it would be destruction in a few hours. And they were kind of the police was around of all of them. It was a huge tension, and at the end we managed to shoot while with our characters and actors while it was happening. And Sandra, that the actress who plays Dominga, is someone from the community for Rio, one of the leaders also. So she was really inside of this action, and very worried about with the community of what would happen with them. And it was a very stressful day and very sad day, but it was the moment that I realized that this documentary material could brings a lot of would bring a lot of interesting things from the film also. And I was very attracted once we were shooting to use more documentary materials, but it was not that planned in the script in the beginning, because I couldn't know what would happen exactly, and when would happen exactly. So I was, during the process of shooting, very, open to look for the process in a way that we could manage to have everything that was happening with us also, well, in a way that we could also be part of this in a positive way for them, in a way that they were kind of using us also to protect them, and in a way that we couldn't in some way, how do you say, shoot this issue in a respectful way. I was very worried to be respectful with this tension moments. So, and it was a kind of partnership, because they were very, at the end, very grateful to have these hard moments also registered for them, like in the history of cinema, for example. They were very they feel they are part of something else also, in a way they are part of a fiction film, and it could how do you say that, it could reach more people than it would reach in other kinds of materials they were used to work as documentary films, for example, or more journalistic, periodistic ways of telling their story, of a way of telling their story. So yeah, I think it's I think it's
let's see if I open. Yes. Tatiana de Lima Griffin, she asked, I would like to know at the end, if the young girl stays by Anna as she fully transforms and becomes part of the environment. Mm-hmm. It made me think of the hope placed in newer generations to be more closely concerned with the environment and those mutations. Was that part of your intention?
Yes. I don't know if yes, I would like to have this kind of sensibility of this girl that lived all these difficult moments also, because she's part of this community that is removal. But this sensibility and curiosity about Anna's also, even if it's a very difficult moment for her, for herself, this girl, and to look of this kind of disease in a positive way, as I was saying before. I have also, I don't know if not everyone can realize this in the film. But I had this idea of Dona Rosa, that is the older lady, that also has a kind of in her hand we have a blue spot, a very little spot that shows that maybe she's the next one who would develop this disease. And could have this kind of heritage of this crazy disease of resistance, and maybe this is a beginning of a epidemic. Epidemic something. I know it's very hard to talk about epidemia now, but I was thinking about these epidemic diseases in a way of a positive way of changing and transformation. So yes, I would like to know to think about this girl as a new generation that's looking for this example and trying to understand what happened with this crazy process of Anna and of the city. She's the one who will will remain to tell the story, maybe.
Well, as a journalist, I have to ask you, you are living or you're just for a couple of weeks in Uruguay? Are you in a new project? What are you doing now?
I'm living in Uruguay for like almost 3 months. I'm shooting a series here.
Okay.
That would be shot, that should be shot in São Paulo, but because of the pandemic, we are shooting almost all of these series here in Montevideo.
Great.
It's great. I would like to go back to the end of the film a little bit, which at the beginning, the first time I watched it, I did not understand. I said, why does she have to go? Where does all that disease came from and took over her and took over all her environment and everything? So how and why did you choose that particular way of showing, what an environment can do to a person?
The disease, you mean?
Yes.
Because I think the body is a kind of way to think about these, how we belong to somewhere, to a place, to a city, or to a community. So it's a kind of our structure, our kind of house. So it's what we have to relate to relate to environment, and I really like the idea to think in this kind of parallel that bodies and walls could react somehow in a kind of similar way to environment issues as humidity, for example, or even with tension. I was working all the time with this idea of progression, that in progression in a way that accumulation, the idea of accumulation. I would like to work with this idea, how a body reacts and accumulate after the accumulation of the humidity, the heat, the tension, the feeling of impotence, depression of having to react and not being able to react as fast as we need or we think we should, and the body and this disease as a kind of reaction that are not rational, and it happens before we could realize that we are already reacting. So the disease is a kind of for me in this film is a kind of reaction in a good way, that it's showing that our body is living something and reacting to this, that's something that bothers us or somehow changes us. And I like this idea of mutation and kind of metamorphosis to get these two bodies of the city and of Anna closer of each other to know to get them closer as the same process. And I really worked in this idea also because I like this idea of beginning in some realistic way. So this disease at the beginning of the film, it's something that could happen to everyone. I mean, a lot of people tells me after the film that I was scratching. How to say coçando?
Yeah, scratching. Yeah.
Scratching all my body during the film. It was very strange.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm asking, because I was. Anytime I thought of that end, I would go, it's that, do I have anything?
At the same time, people also said me, I had a disease that was very similar with the first phase of Anna's disease or the second phase, because we have these all phases of disease. So I created a new disease, a fictional disease that I would like to be something at the beginning, especially something that we could relate to something that people had lived already, that recognize that something that's realistic or it's possible to live. So it's a kind of process of recognizing ourselves in this character, not having this kind of feeling of a proximity, to be close to her, to feel something not similar, but to scratch like her, to have this contamination of this feeling of being ill, or feel this disease in some way in our bodies when we are watching. So it's a kind of trying to take us from where we are and to try to think how we can manage our bodies in different ways, and of course the environment also, and political, urban politics also. I mean, it's all together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think.
Well, you certainly accomplished that. I think everyone that I talked to that saw the movie tells me, but that ending, that ending was so.
Yeah, and I like the idea of starting in a very realistic way, and after we are in a accumulation and we are in a kind of progression, and it becomes something very unrealistic and a kind of fantasy and metaphorical way of looking this disease or looking this story. I like this idea to start in a realistic, almost documentary film, and that transforms itself also in another genre films. And during this duration, during now 1 hour and a half, we have a lot of different films in one film. In a progression, something that makes sense to transform itself also with the city, with the body, and with the disease, and with the film all together. So it's part of my way of looking at this issue.
Great. Marina, I would like to personally thank you for your wonderful story and your film, and we hope to see your series soon on TV, maybe, I don't know, or in festivals.
I can say yet, but you'll see. So I hope.
And congratulations for the debate you put in this film that is so important in every major city in the world. And thank you a lot. Hope to talk to you soon again.
And I want to thank both of you, Marina and Franthiesco, for being with us tonight in our MOSTRA. And I also want to thank all of our sponsors, because we cannot do this without the sponsors, and we have quite a few of them. And the universities that normally participate too, many of them are also contributing to this virtual MOSTRA, even though we are not on their campuses as normally we do it. They have been watching, they have been sending questions, and they are interested in the movies. I will want to thank my virtual team, which has been just unbelievable, a team of very young students from Columbia and DePaul University who have helped me out because I know nothing about doing a virtual festival. And, you know, it is due to their work that I have been able to do this. I also would like to tell our audience that don't forget to go on our website and see our silent auction, because that also help us bring some funds so that we can continue to bring MOSTRA to you. And it was part of our young virtual film team that they decided, why don't you do a raffle too with those who really donate something? They have the right to get something for free. So they put a raffle in our website. So those of you who want to do that, we would appreciate very much. But most of all, without you filmmakers, we cannot have a MOSTRA. And I think that MOSTRA has the purpose of bringing films with social conscience. That's our main goal. And so all our films have some very important theme that we want to discuss, and we want people to see and think about it, because, you know, solutions are with us, and solutions are with the young people who are in universities, and we need to try to motivate these people to do something. And ours is just a drop in the water, and the ripples come after. So hopefully, we hope. I really appreciate, Marina, to be able to meet you virtually.
It was my pleasure.
But it has been wonderful to have with us and explaining, because I understand a lot more about the film now, having you comment on it. And Franthiesco, again, it is wonderful to see you, to have you with us. And hopefully the next time, this year I won't be able to go to São Paulo. We do have the same MOSTRA, and I think you are going to comment at MOSTRA, right, in São Paulo, because we continue, MOSTRA is shown here, and then we take it to Brazil. And it's not a complete MOSTRA with all the films, but we do show most of the films, and some of you will be helping them out too. So thank you so much to all of you and to all of those who help us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
See you.